7 with the Burnout and Overtraining in Sports. We're here with Mary Bryan. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, that'd be great.
Okay, Molly. Well, graduated from Eastern New Mexico University. I played the LPGA Tour for 10 years, professional golf, still a professional golfer. Then I went into broadcasting, PGA, LPGA, I did radio and television, worked for ESPN for 20 years, NBC, ABC, CBS. I was on-course commentator and also in the booth, and then PGA radio on-course commentator, a lot of media work. And then kind of retired and then jumped into coaching because a friend of mine is the head coach, and I've been doing this for 6 years now. I'm the assistant coach of women's golf at the University of Louisville.
Perfect. To you, what do you think defines a burnout in sports?
Well, I'm not sure there's an exact definition of burnout in sports. I think it's subjective and a little personal, but I think, personally speaking, I've been through a little burnout and then recuperated from it, but I think it's when you lose your focus more than anything. If you're tired of something or it becomes redundant, it's easy to burn out. So I think it's important to always have different balls in the air and have something different you're working on or something different you're trying to achieve or a goal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you say you were burnt out yourself once. Can you explain that to us?
It's kind of a numbing feeling. I mean, you go out to, for instance, when I was on the tour, you go out to hit balls and get better and do this, and you just couldn't focus on it. It didn't mean anything. It was like you didn't want to be there. But basically, burnout is something you don't want to be there. It doesn't matter if you're a banker, a waitress, or a professional golfer.
Right.
It's someplace you don't want to be.
Mm-hmm. Now, how do you think you overcame that obstacle?
I stepped away. And I started getting into broadcasting a little bit, but I still played, and it refreshed me. Sometimes I think it's like a computer, you push the refresh button.
Right.
I think you have to do that with your mind and your body when it comes to sports.
Now, how did that really affect you emotionally in burnout?
It was pretty devastating. Mm-hmm. Until you really realize, or you mature, because I was probably pretty immature, but you don't. It's you know, it's like somebody pulls the rug out from under you, except you don't know what's going on for a while, and then you realize you've kind of had it, and then you step away, refresh, and start over.
Now, do you think that can really affect an athlete's performance, being burnout?
Oh, without doubt, without doubt. I think you have to be very cautious as an athlete. That you have to be aware of the little signs of I'm not interested in practicing today, or I don't have a goal. You have to have goals in life, whether it be sports or not. And if you don't have goals, it's a pretty good sign to burn out.
Mm-hmm. And what characteristics could somebody who thinks they're getting close to burnout look for so they can kind of stop it?
Well, I think something I just said, if you go out to do something and you don't have a daily goal or an hourly goal, if you're just out there doing it, it doesn't accomplish anything. And when you don't accomplish anything, it's easy to get burned out.
While other studies report that males have higher levels of burnout than females, as a coach, would you be able to tell which gender you've seen experience burnout more frequently?
I think it's an individual thing. I don't think it's sexual.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how somebody goes about it. It depends on their successes and their failures. And I just don't think it's a gender deal at all.
And what are some techniques that can be applied to prevent burnout in athletes?
Well, I think you have to have small goals and small building blocks. If you're reaching for the pinnacle all the time without looking at the little things that get you there, you're going to burn out because you're always looking up here as opposed to what's going to get you there. So it's very important to work on the smaller things that build up to the big success. Personality is not very different.
Can you think of a time where social support helped you or one of your athletes from feeling burnout?
Social support?
Peers, other teammates helping that?
Well, I think anytime, I'm a real positive person. I think the glass should be full instead of empty. It should be partly sunny instead of partly cloudy. And I think it's really important to attack life or your sport or anything you're trying to do that way. Certainly there are pitfalls, but if you're looking at, there's something good that comes out of everything. And just like I tell some of my golfers, you might hit a bad shot on the hole, but it only takes one good shot to make a par or even a birdie. So I think you have to dwell on the positive as opposed to the negative. When you're done with the round, then your negatives are
like the pressure of always having to be successful could lead to a burnout.
Oh, no no doubt. I think other people's expectations are probably the hardest thing in sports. You have to have that's why you have to have your own goals, and you have to have parameters to work within, and you have to know what's going to make you better. But, you know, it's like a coach telling somebody in golf, well, you should shoot 68 every time you play. That's ridiculous. Or you should do this. You should. The word should is a big key to burnout or failure. It's not what you should do, it's what you would like to accomplish. Accomplishing something is more important. You might not be really successful that day, but you might accomplish something. I.e., the player that was really nervous teeing off and maybe won her first tournaments has now played in 2 or 3 tournaments. She's accomplished settling her nerves, even though you're keyed up on the first hole, not so nervous. So other people is to know what you've done in a good way, as opposed to, you know, it's just like somebody sitting here telling you everything you do wrong, as opposed to telling you all the things you do correctly. Whether you're a child or an adult, which way is easier to live? So to avoid the burnout or backtrack from whatever you're doing, I think you have to key on positive.
Like positive techniques that you can give a person to maybe stop them from burnout or get out of a burnout quicker?
Well, I think the number one key is to be aware of the fact that you're moving in that direction. And that would be when you're doing it because you have to, as opposed to that you want.
A big part of burnout has to do with like how you view difficult situations. For you, did you view being under pressure as an opportunity for success or failure?
Well, I think you have to view it as an opportunity for success, but I also think it's a learned thing. The more success you have, it's easier to view it as an opportunity for success. The more failures you have, it becomes a harder block to get over. You know, everybody's a little different, and this whole burnout thing is very subjective, I think. And I also think the word burnout is sometimes, some people just want to quit, but they say they're burned out, and it's easier to say I'm burned out than to say I'm going to quit. So the jargon, you know, or the semantics of saying I'm burned out sounds softer or easier to go away from.
Yeah. It's still going.
Okay. How important is it to look at the positives in a performance to avoid burnout?
Oh, I think it's number one. I think you have to, just like we talked a little while ago, I think positive is the most important thing, because if you're looking at the negatives, you'll never go forward, and you're going to put bad things in your mind. But if you look at the positives, it's a happier place to be, it's a more productive place to be, and it can avoid the word burnout.
Do you think that maybe after every game or after a round in golf, you just write down a few things that you thought you did well and then review those, and those might help out?
Oh, without a doubt, whatever sport you're in, I think if you go back and sit down, whether you write it down.
In your opinion, how would you describe overtraining?
Well, I think there are a lot of facets of overtraining. I think the first sign of overtraining, it's almost a little bit like burnout, in the sense you go out to practice, whatever it be, shooting free throws, hitting putts, whatever, and you're not there mentally. And, you know, sometimes less is better, because if you practice for 10 minutes on something, you might get more out of it than practicing on an hour and 10 minutes, because only the 10 minutes, your mind and your body can only respond so long. And overtraining, I think you tend to lose interest. I think you tend to, you expect things to happen as opposed to making them happen. And in sports, you have to make things happen. And overtraining, you think it's just going to happen.
Sorry. All right. What are some treatments for burnout and overtraining?
Treatments. So you're making burnout a disease, right? Well, I'm not sure. I think obviously it's a little different with everyone, but I think the first thing is to realize you are burned out, or you've had enough, so to speak. Step back, analyze where you are, what your goals are, where you want to go, what you want to do, and how you're going to get there. And then maybe you need to get away and do something totally different for a day or a week, and then recharge your batteries. Or maybe you're ready to jump right back in, but you have to have a plan. I don't care what sport it is, you've got to have a plan to get better. It just does not happen.
More in your life. How long did it take you to overcome that obstacle?
You know, I'm not really sure. I think you just know. I'm not sure I called it burnout, but I probably thought, you know, kind of habit type thing. And when you're doing for something for a living, it's a different story. You're earning money to pay your bills, pay your house payments, and you just continue to continue. If you're a collegiate athlete and you have burnout, I think you need guidance on how to refocus your plan or your path. And I don't know that burnout's the disease, but it certainly can be a hindrance if you don't handle it.
Definitely.